Hello everyone, welcome to my very small YouTube channel about knitting. My name is Isabelle, I am in France, I have 3 sons and I have 3 cats. Some have said it's related. And I'm filming these videos in English because I miss my English very much. I used to live in the United States, but that was over 32 years ago. And I don't have that many opportunities to be talking again in English. So you are my own opportunity to be talking in English about once a week. And I think for the year and a half I've been filming videos on YouTube now about once a week, I think my talking in English has come back somewhat to me. Not fully, but somewhat. I think I'm speaking a bit more fluently than when I first started recording. So that's working. And today it's gonna be a new video series, something I had in mind for a very long time. And I think I'm gonna be calling it Woolly Stories. It's gonna be an echo to the Woolly News series I already have on my channel, where now about once a month I talk about what has caught my attention in the wool and yarn and knitting community as a whole. And in this series what I want to do is be talking about the yarn that I'm knitting with, not any kind of yarn. This is not be of course heavily edited series, because I would like to be talking about the yarn and wool I'm knitting from, and I'm mostly knitting from French wool. And I think these yarn and wool and sheep breeds and everything are a little bit less known than other type of sheep from all over the world. So if that sounds good to you and if this is of some interest to you, please stay tuned. So first, what am I wearing? I am wearing my Pulsenzi that I made. When did I make it? When did I finish it? April 2022, about a year ago. My Pulsenzi is from Marie-Amélie Designs. Marie-Amélie has stopped designing sometime last year, and she made all of her patterns available for free on Ravelry. Her website is closed, and unfortunately this sweater pattern was all my cats are inside, you may hear them because the weather is not very good and they've been home for most of the time since I've been back home today. This design was from a book that she published. It was called the Ensemble book, and unfortunately that pattern has not been released as a digital pattern, so it's not free on Ravelry. You can find the pattern, but you can find the page for the design, but there is no PDF file attached to it. Anyway, this sweater, I love it. It's made, I may have a new episode on that soon at some point. It's knit with, I made it with mohair from the Pyrenees. Maybe every other video you hear me talking about this farm in the Pyrenees where I get mohair from. And it's a mohair cardé, so that means that the fluff of the mohair has not been combed, so that it has the usual fluffiness and very soft type of mohair. So this is the goat yarn that is a bit rougher and has a beautiful stitch definition, and that can go into also color work designs because it shows very well compared to mohair. Although I did knit a color work sweater not long time ago with mohair. I'm gonna link things down below, so I may link it. It was my Agnes sweater, pullover or jumper. and by Camille Avad. So, and the yellow, so that's for the blue. And the yellow yarn here it was a collaboration 2 years ago between Laine Paysanne, which is also another site and another company that makes French wool from the center of France. And they had a collaboration with Hall. Hall is a concept store in Paris. They play with colors mainly. And they had a collaboration to dye. That was once of a kind. I'm not sure I recall 4 or 5 shades of browns. So this one looks yellow to me. It was a brown. I'm not sure I recall the name of the brown, the exact brown I used. Brun doré, that means golden brown. Looks more yellow to me than brown. But anyway, I did like the association of the yellow and the blue for this color work. The pattern is just nice. I like very much the yoke design and the way the colors play together. And I'm wearing a very old, over 20 years old scarf, silk scarf. And this morning when I went to work like that. This morning when I chose the sweater, I thought, which kind of scarf am I going to be wearing with this sweater? Because these are 2 very bold colors, and I don't have a plain yellow scarf because I don't think it matches my skin tone very well. I don't have a blue scarf that matches that very royal bright blue of the sweater. I did not want brown or darker blue or something. So I was thinking I need to knit one scarf, hood, little scarf, my own little trendy little scarf design, maybe a shawl for each sweater I've made, so that I know I have something to match when I want to wear them with something around my neck. Okay, so enough rambling for now. Now we are going to be moving to that one yarn, or that one series of yarn I want to be talking about today. Okay, so which project and which yarn do I want to be talking about? The one I'm knitting on right now. It is the Highland Thistle sweater by Caroline Houlbrook. You may recall I talked about it last week. I was about there. I need to get my screen so that I can see. Yeah, I was about there last week, I think, when you last saw it. I've started to be knitting a bit on the thistle design. It's a very funny pattern. You wrap stitches and you make the thistle here, and there is a bit of an additional lace pattern underneath. And so this sweater I'm making with a cone of yarn I got last summer when I went to Cotentin, which is an administrative area in Normandy. I'm going to try, when I more deeply get into that, to show pictures so that you can see where this area is and the other areas I'm going to be talking about. And I got this cone, 1 kilogram of sports weight yarn, which is called fleur de sel. So that's salt, that a kind of the very tippity top and the best salt you can get from the sea. And this coal is of a natural gray color, and it's a mix of white to brown and black fleeces. It's not dyed. And you may recall when I first talked about my yarn purchases last summer, or you may not recall, but I'm going to be reminding you, I got a second cone of the natural beigey white, which is called accroche-cœur. Yeah, also in sports weight. And Leonard West have several type of yarn, from fingering to bulky. So there is sport, and I think there is worsted. I think there are 4 types of yarn in their line. Okay, so Leonard West is in Lessay. Lessay is at the top of Cotentin. Cotentin is part of the Normandy greater area, and it's at the western part of Normandy, and they are even located at the on the western side of Cotentin, because Cotentin is more or less north to south oriented, and so there is a west side and an eastern side. So they are on the western side of Cotentin, and I think, I'm not sure, but I think that's why they are called Leonard West. Or maybe it's because Normandy is part of the greater western area of France, even though if you go to Bretagne, you are further west from Normandy, in France mainland. So they are in Lessay, and I'm not sure I recall how I discovered that there was a yarn company and a farm over there. I mean, honestly, I do not recall. Anyway, once I knew they were there, and I had visited their website, I was so very interested, but by their own projects. So these 2 women, so it's a company with a 2-woman company, that the first one started in 2010 to raise the sheep, and a second lady came back a bit later on, 2018 I think, and so they started about in 2018 to really grow their yarn production and their yarn shop, and now they sell other things also around the sheep, some meat, sorry if you don't eat meat, from their sheep, and other things from Normandy. So they want to use local breed of sheep. And I have to say that when I first looked, I need to get back to my screen again, sorry. When I looked in my book, The Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, more than 200 fiber from animal to spun yarn, and it's by Deborah, Robson and Ekarius, which is a very famous book that I read from time to time, not all the time, but it's always next to me when I knit, and sometimes I want to have a pause, and so I open the book and I just read through. No formal reading from beginning to end, no, just like that. And when sometimes I need some information, I get into it. I looked for the 3 sheep breeds that they use in Leonard West. They are not in the book. So, or I did not find them, but I doubt, I don't know how to look for information in a book. So I have gathered information about these sheep breeds because I was very interested into knowing more about these breeds, the type of yarn they are making, even though I do have some of it here and I'm knitting right now with that, and some of the stories. So that's why I wanted to call that series Woolly Stories. Anyway, and so they are, one of their projects at first was to save some of the sheep breeds that were going to be not extinct but endangered. And the 3 sheep breed, even though some of them are less endangered than others, are part of a conservation process that takes place in Normandy to save and to maintain and some of the animal breeds that you find here. So from sheep to cows and other type of animal, wildlife also too. So they started on that project and they got helped to start raising that flock at first. And they started to breed the sheep so that they can save one of the breed that was going almost extinct because it was not used that much for meat. The two other breed were raised for meat, even though it was not a very huge flock and a huge number of sheep in France from these breeds. They were not going to be extinct, but one of them was, because it was mostly used for the yarn, and they say it's the second softest yarn after merino in France. So it's a breed that produces yarn, wool. And some of the fleeces can go up to 6 kilograms, that's 13 pounds. So that's quite a huge production. And as the sheep live outside, they most of the time during the year, they say about 10 months per year on average. And in Normandy, the weather is not, so I usually complain about the weather, but the weather is not very cold and not very warm, very windy and very rainy. And that allows the sheep to develop a coat that is thick, that is water resistant, and the undercoat is very soft. So they mix all these fleeces that they get from their sheep to make, for example, this kind of brownish grayish color. And with the smallest and roughest part of the wool, they make a product that you can use to stuff pillows and other kind of things for the house. So nothing goes to waste. And that's one of their projects. And so they collect, as they say, they collect the fiber and all the fleeces, and they send it to be washed, and all the process takes place in France. So they send it to be washed in a company that is at the center of France, in Creuse. So they say it's lavage de laine du Gévaudan. So that means Gévaudan is the very small area, and it's a company that washes wool. And they say they wash wool in a very environmental friendly or most environmental friendly way that they can, and they use some kind of soap that is biodegradable. It doesn't impact the nature around them when they treat the water to send it back or to give it back to nature. So once the fleeces are washed and the wool is washed, and they send it into Creuse, which is not very far away from there, once again in the center of France, or another mill that is in the southwestern part of France, in Tarn, which is another area, to be, of course, to be spun. The word in English for spinning is very different from the word in French, which is filet. Filet means not spinning has the idea of a rotation, and filet has the idea of stretching. So this is why I know this word, but I completely forgot about it. I blanked out. Anyway, So it's sent to one of these two companies, one in the center of France and one in the southeastern part of France, to be spun. And they get it back in Normandy. So once they have the yarn that is there, so when they spin it, either they mix all the colors that they have to have several shades of gray to brown and completely black, or they get only the white ones to make the more creamish color. And as you can see, the yarn is not white. It's of a creamy color, and the natural white yarn from sheep is not white. It's of a creamy color. It has some yellow in it. So once they have these cones or whatever they get from the mill, some of them they do dye. So they have several series of colors. If I can retrieve them here, they have several series of colors. So they say they don't use all natural dye, they use conventional dyes for some of the colors that they can use natural dyes to get them, I guess. I do not know. But they also are extremely careful about the water and recycling these dyes so that they do not harm the nature around them, that surrounds them. And they chose the different colors, so that goes from the white creamy color to a whole range of shades of browns and blues, mostly browns and blues, some a bit brighter, some a bit more subdued, and a bit of green colors. They decided to remain within the colors you find in Normandy, in the Normandy sceneries, so they stayed into that very natural colors. So non-nuance colors, for example, they do not use that. So they have 4 yarn weights: fingering, sport, Aran, and bulky. So no worsted but Aran. I did say something wrong just before. And so they hand dye their own yarn with these conventional dyes, but they say they are quite careful about recycling the water. Anyway, once we have said that, I sent an email to them asking if I can use some of their pictures in the video today, talking about them. When I edit the video, either tonight or tomorrow, to have it live on Friday. My baby cat is distracting me. He's on the table and he wants to drink my glass of water, which he's prone to. If they do not answer and give me an answer so that I can use their pictures, I will have to maybe capture some of their websites and show you the pictures of the sheep they have on their website. And I found some other pictures that I can use. I know, but I would prefer to use, the sheep from their own flock. Anyway, so they have 3 different breeds that they use in their yarn. The first breed is the one that they saved, or they are contributing to saving. It's the Avranchin. So this is the one that was almost extinct, and that is better breed for wool. It has a very thick coat because it lives outside, and the particularity or the thing that you have to know in Normandy, some of the pastures for the sheep get covered by the sea about several times a month when the tide is high. And when I went last summer, I could not see the ship because about twice a year you have very high tides at the equinox and at the solstice. And the whole pasture, the whole fields were completely underwater. So the sheep were in the barn. And what has allowed the two other breeds that I'm going to be talking about just after that to survive is because they were breeds that were used for their meat. And the sheep eat these special type of vegetables that thrive in salty water. So what they eat is salty, and their meat is naturally salty, and is of a very, very highly praised for big restaurants and big chefs and everything. So these two breeds were not endangered, or not too much endangered, because they were continued to be used for their meat. But the Avranchin was almost extinct, and they had to mix the breed so that they survive. So the Avranchin has a bit evolved, of course. And one of the characteristics of the Avranchin is that it has wool on its head, and a very, very heavy fleece, and so that they have to be shed about twice a year, from what I've seen. And also, this breed was also endangered because it grows a bit slower than the ones that are used, or the most common breeds. So it takes longer to have adults, and so it's more expensive. And also, that's also why they were endangered. The second breed that they use is the Cotentin. So I need to find so there is a whole program of preservation for these breeds, the three breeds, and there is the public Normandy area gives money for having these breeds survive. So this one, the Cotentin, is a bit more common. It's the one that is also known for its meat, and it's mostly white, when the Avranchin can be very dark. And the yarn is of less quality than the one from the Avranchin, so this is why they mix the yarn together to have a yarn of a better quality. And the third breed is the Roussin. They say Roussin de la Hague. So La Hague is very, very north of Cotentin, northwest of Cotentin. And you may know, because there are other nuclear plants there, you may know about La Hague maybe. And so the Roussin is also a very rustic breed with a fleece that is not as good as the other ones, and also that is preserved for being a Normandy breed. Sometimes their head can be black, not all the time, and the two later ones do not have wool on their head. So anyway, that's what I can tell so far, at least, about these breeds that are very, very beautiful sheep on the pictures. I hope I will be able to go back, and I will choose to go back next summer to see them, because it's about a 2-hour drive, so I can go there for a day and have lunch somewhere and visit some places and go see the sheep, and I will have to call them beforehand to make sure I can see them, because last time they said if I had called beforehand they could have closed the shop and take me to the barn, but as it was not, I did not ask beforehand, they could not do that. Anyway, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about, these breed that are local to me, part of, I would say, part of my history. But you know, I'm not from Normandy. I'm from another area from France, and I went back to Normandy because there was a job there whenever I was ready to come back from the United States. And I've learned to love that area. It's a very touristy area, of course, because of World War II and all the stories and all the history that is around there. It's a very beautiful area. And I have other reasons to love it now that I know I can knit from these very rustic yarn that I love. And I'm waiting to see how I tested it a bit on my swatch, how the yarn will behave after it's been soaked, maybe not blocked, but or at least soaked, so that once the sweater is finished. I have to say I like natural wool, untreated wool, natural colors, even though I would most probably go back and get some of their cakes that with some colors, maybe to knit a colorwork sweater. I sent some to Rosemary in that's my baby cat. If I open the door to him, he's gonna be wanted to be back in 30 seconds because the outside is a very, very, very scary place. And so I'm gonna stop here and wait for him to come down. Okay, so I hope he's gonna be okay. His tail is waving that way. That means he's kind of excited, and he's on the table. So we'll see what happens. I think he saw another cat outside, and he was very, very concerned about this other cat. Anyway, I was saying that I hope I will go again next summer and maybe get some of their natural dyes, skeins. They can cake them for you, but now I do have a Swift and a ball winder, so I will be able to cake them myself and see some of their natural dyes. I sent some of their wool to Rosemary in Australia last year, along with some mohair, and she knit a dotted race by Leonard West with both the yarn from Leonard West and the mohair from the farm, I think. I guess I got her the mohair from Poitou. I think that the next woolly story, I will talk about this mohair that I love so very much. I think whenever I have time, when I have time to look around for the information, and I think this video is going to be taking quite a bit of time to edit. So I thank you very much for being here with me today. Please tell me in the comments if this is something that is of some interest to you or not at all. And I do hope that spending these 40 something minutes with me brought you as much joy and happiness as it brought to me, and some kind of a distraction that you can place me in the background and knit with me when I'm talking. And yeah, it did. I was very happy to collect all the information and talk about that, because that's something I like to be doing. And maybe that's the teacher inside of me that's quite happy. And yeah, I hope I will see you next week or next time, and that in the meantime your knitting and your activity with wool, having wool in your hand, will bring you joy and happiness, and that it can be each little stitch can be a little spark of light in your life whenever everything is dark around you, or at least it is for me little sparks of joy and happiness and light whenever, you know, all the rest of my life is very, very dark. And yeah, thanks again, and see you next time.